From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, this is Hannah Mordo, and this is your News 8 Daily for Wednesday, November 6th.
So I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Winning the White House, what Donald Trump is telling America as he wins the race for president.
We're going to take Indiana to places we've never seen before.
A GOP sweep in Indiana. We have team coverage of election results across the state. First, though, weather this morning. We got a lot of rain overnight. Things are tapering off. We're going to have mild temperatures again today. Not nearly as warm as Election Day, but we're going to get to the mid-60s. Donald Trump has won his way back to the White House, and he will have a Republican-heavy Congress to work with. Key victories in several states put Trump over the top overnight and into this morning. Lee Waldman shows us how the vote went down.
It's the day after Election Day, and no more waiting. Former President Donald Trump is the president-elect and poised to become the 47th president of the United States over Vice President Kamala Harris. Wisconsin is the final state CNN projected to send him over the edge with 270 electoral votes. He is also poised to win the popular vote, a huge win for the former president. Now, he crumbled the so-called blue wall that had formerly sent President Joe Biden to the White House in 2020 over Donald Trump at that point. That was Harris's clearest path to the White House if she were to win the 2024 election. Another big win for the Republicans in the 2024 election is taking over the Senate and flipping the Senate. So another race we are keeping our eyes on is the race for control of the House. Republicans hoping to keep control of the House in this election. Now, Trump, he addressed his supporters around 2 a.m. Eastern time in Florida. Hear what he had to say.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow. I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people.
Now, Kamala Harris didn't talk to her supporters last night at Howard University. A member of her campaign staff said that she will be addressing her supporters at Howard University at some point today, not giving a timeline of that, but they did say they wanted to wait until every vote was counted. In Washington, D.C., I'm Lee Waldman reporting.
Representative Jim Banks is also delivering a victory message. He will switch congressional chambers after winning the race for U.S. Senate. Banks beat Democratic candidate Valerie McRae with a margin of more than 20 percentage points. Banks says in a statement this morning, "I got in this race to champion working Hoosier families and put Indiana first, and that's what I plan to do on day one in the United States Senate. I am honored to have the opportunity to fight for the things that matter most to Hoosiers." The man Banks is replacing in the Senate will be Indiana's next governor. Mike Braun easily beat two challengers and will succeed Eric Holcomb, who is term limited. News 8's Hernan Gutierrez is at the State House this morning with more on the lead race in a statewide Republican sweep, and we expect to hear from Braun again this morning.
So we're set to hear from the governor-elect here at 9:45. Mike Braun will be announcing his transition team over at the JW Marriott in a press conference. His win marks the end of a long 2-year campaign. He announced his intention to run for governor back in November of 22. That is about 6 months before any of his other opponents announced their intentions to run. The AP called the race for Braun shortly after polls closed in the northwest part of the state. In his victory speech last night, he highlighted his time in the Senate. He hopes to lean on the Republicans' control of the state legislature and his business experience to get his agenda through. His priorities include healthcare, education, and agriculture. Braun says he hopes to lean on his faith, his family, and his community to get him through his term in office.
We've been blessed beyond any measure. All I can tell you is now we've jumped this hurdle, this hard deadline, and really, I can't wait to hit the ground running, taking this state to a place where they put us with Texas, Florida, Tennessee.
When he announces his transition team later this morning, Braun says he plans to take the rest of the week off. Be sure to tune into our midday news to hear more about his next steps. Braun is set to take the oath of August on Inauguration Day, January 13th. Reporting in Indianapolis, I'm Hernan Gutierrez for WishTV, WishTV.com, or follow us on Facebook for updates.
Democrat Jennifer McCormick did not get the close race with Braun she was hoping for, but during her concession speech last night, McCormick says she remains optimistic about the future of the state and her party.
This race was about a lot of important things, and that has not changed. It is about making sure that women have reproductive freedoms. That's what this is about.
Libertarian candidate Donald Rainwater got less than 5% of the vote. That's about half the vote percentage that he received in the 2020 race. Todd Rokita will stay on as Indiana's Attorney General. He says it's now time to make good on his campaign promises. News 8's Brittany Noble has more on his victory, which he declared early.
The announcement came in before the official results came in, making him one of the first candidates in Indiana to speak to Hoosiers on election night. He began his speech by emphasizing his commitment to addressing illegal immigration. Additionally, Rokita says he'll seek policies that would prevent transgender women from using women's restrooms and participating in women's sports. He also plans to prevent youth from receiving gender transition treatments.
We'll continue to defend Indiana's pro-life laws.
Rokita was reportedly one of 5 attorneys general absent from a bipartisan call yesterday calling for peaceful transfers of power and condemned election violence. Rokita has a long political career, having served 4 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives and 8 years as Indiana's Secretary of State. In 2020, he was elected Attorney General with the most votes ever received by a candidate running for state office in Indiana. I'm Brittany Noble reporting for WishTV.
Down ballot races have delivered few surprises in Indiana, with incumbents carrying the day in congressional races. Democrat Andre Carson wins re-election handedly with a nearly 30% margin over Republican John Schmitz. Republican Victoria Spartz initially did not run for re-election, but re-entered the race and will return to Congress with a decisive victory over Deborah Pickett. The 6th congressional district was destined for a new representative, with Greg Pence choosing not to run again. Fellow Republican Jefferson Shreve takes it 1 year after losing his bid to become mayor of Indianapolis. Republican Jim Baird is reelected to the 4th district seat that stretches from Morgan County to northwest Indiana. Baird more than doubled the vote total from Democrat Derek Holder. In Marion County, the races for the board of Indianapolis Public Schools got a lot of attention this election year. 3 of the seats were contested, pitting candidates with charter school ties against those backing public school educators. News 8's Colin Bailey tells us where the races stand.
Good morning. We know that this was one of the most expensive IPS school board races ever, and with the election results from last night, we know there's going to be 3 new people on the school board. One of the highly contested races was the school board's at-large seat. DeAndre D. Thompson won the seat with 56% in the vote, beating 2 opponents, including the incumbent Kenneth Allen. She is one of the newcomers on the board. Thompson was backed by charter-friendly political action committees that funded mailers, canvassing, and other outreach efforts. Our news gathering partners at Chalkbeat Indiana say she outspent her opponents with a total of $91,000 raised. The District 1 and 2 seats on the IPS board were also contested. District 1 had Ashley Thomas win with 67% in the vote. Thomas, like Thompson, was backed by Stanford Children Indiana and Rise Indy, 2 nonprofits who support charter schools. District 2 winner Gail Cosby is back on the school board. She served from 2016 to 2020. She was not one of the candidates backed by charter groups. Cosby was backed by the local teachers union, the Indianapolis Education Association, which has historically supported candidates more critical of charters. Cosby says she will bring what she calls her outspoken self back to the schools. And these 3 new candidates will take office on January 1st of this upcoming year. For now in the newsroom, I'm Colin Bailey for WishTV, WishTV.com, or follow us on Facebook for updates.
Get much more election coverage and results on WishTV.com right now. U.S. Capitol Police say a man was carrying a blowtorch and a flare gun when they arrested him yesterday. Officers say he had driven to Washington, D.C. from Michigan, smelled like fuel, and had a manifesto that he aimed to deliver to Congress. Congress was not in session on Tuesday, and there were no formal Capitol tours because of Election Day. Now to iTeam 8 and the Delphi murders trial. An expert lays out evidence tied to Libby German's phone on the day she and Abby Williams went missing. iTeam 8's Kyla Russell has more from the latest testimony for the defense.
The jury heard something they hadn't before. A defense expert believes headphones were plugged into Libby's phone for hours on the day the girls went missing. Stacey Eldridge worked at the FBI for nearly 10 years and was at one point a digital evidence instructor. She believes wired headphones or some sort of aux cord was plugged into Libby's phone between 5:45 p.m. and 10:32 p.m. on the day the girls went missing, February 13th of 2017. She claims someone called the phone milliseconds before the headphones were plugged in. She said, "I can't think of any explanation that doesn't involve human interaction." ISP Sergeant Chris Cecil was also called to the stand. He helped extract data from Libby's phone multiple times since 2017. He said he hadn't ever heard of the headphone theory, so he Googled a question during the court's break. He found that water or dirt could have been impacting how Libby's phone was receiving service. The jury also heard from a firearm toolkit expert who said the analysis done by state police on that unspent cartridge found at the crime scene matching Allen's gun should be considered apples to oranges testing. For the actual photo comparison, the testing used a fired round from Allen's gun compared to the cycled round from the crime scene. The state says firing the cartridge only makes the marks more intense, saying it doesn't actually change the marks. The defense says it needs to be an apples-to-apples comparison. And a doctor who studies the impact solitary confinement has on mental health testified too. Dr. Stuart Gracian reviewed phone calls, video, and transcripts to evaluate Allen. He explained what false memories are and interjected saying that's likely what Allen experienced. False memories begin when someone says, "I think I saw something," and then replay it over and over in their head until it becomes reality. We do continue to expect to hear more witnesses close to Richard Allen as the defense continues to wrap up their case. Reporting here in Delphi, I'm Kyla Russell for Wish TV. WishTV.com or follow us on Facebook for updates.
In your business headlines, Jane King brings us the election result reaction and that the Federal Reserve is expected to cut interest rates again.
Another big thing happening this week. So the Federal Reserve begins a two-day meeting today. It is expected they will cut interest rates again by 0.25%. Now, economists expect another quarter-point rate cut in December and then possibly some more next year. Over time, these rate cuts tend to lower the cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses. Well, stock futures, guys, up 1,300 points here this morning for the Dow. Wall Street reacting to a victory for Donald Trump, who was declared the winner of the presidential election. Now, investors believe his administration will reduce regulations, taxes, and be more business friendly. Bitcoin also at a new record high overnight, briefly topping 75,000. Generally, it's believed that Trump would give support to Bitcoin, helping to chart a future for the cryptocurrency. Chinese stocks are lower on potential tariffs, and solar stocks are down this morning. Well, climate tops a list of consumers' future concerns. A report by the Nuremberg Institute for Market Decisions found 27% of Americans said that environment and climate protection will be the most critical challenge to overcome in the near future, eclipsing other concerns like immigration, healthcare, and the cost of living. However, looking over the past 2 years, the number of Americans placing climate as a top concern has dropped to 19%. And about 27% of polled shoppers are doom spending. So they're spending despite concerns about the economy and foreign affairs. That's according to a report by Intuit Credit Karma. More than half, about 60% of Americans surveyed, are concerned with the state of the world and the economy. Financial analysts say that these doom shoppers might be looking for a sense of control, especially in a time when it feels like so much is out of control. Well, the stock market surged on Election Day, kind of started off sluggish, but rallied, and the Dow finished up 427 points. Live for the NASDAQ market side, I'm Jane King.
A non-election poll now. Both IU and Notre Dame are on track to make the college football playoff. The first rankings came out last night, and while IU is ranked number 8, they are the number 9 seed in the projected tournament. Notre Dame is ranked number 10 and is also the 10th seed. The season marks the first time Indiana has been 9-0 and the first time the Hoosiers have broken into the top 10 since the pandemic season of 2020. The chair of the College Football Playoff Committee says that IU is a popular choice among committee members, but strength of schedule is a factor.
Their strength of schedule was not very high in comparison to some others. But the way that they have played in those games and the dominance that they have shown in those games, winning by an average of 33 points a game, has been really impressive to the committee. Well coached by Kirk Cignetti, and so they are just a formidable opponent, and so that's what we saw.
The final college football playoff rankings will come out on December 8th. This has been your News 8 Daily from Wish TV. I'm Hannah Mordeau. Watch us on wishtv.com and follow us on Facebook for updates.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update on demand. For even more, on demand and on the go, connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.